Hello and welcome back once again to the only BBC you're ever going to need. It's the Blackford Book Club. Episode 18 is also part 4 from my fourth self-published book entitled The Spirit of Cricket. And without further ado, on page 53 you will find a chapter entitled Root Century, but it's honours even after day 1 at Edgbaston. Friday the 16th of June 2023. England 393 for 8 declared. Australia 14 for no wicket, trail by 379 runs. It's been a strange 24 hours or so in this game we call life for your favourite cricket correspondent. Since my last journal entry I've walked far too far on a singular walk along the canals of central England, watched a befuddling film that I'm either going to retrospectively love but fear I'll continue to hate, and the Ashes, after all the fanfare and English pomp and ceremony, is finally underway. With the team split by 379 runs after the first day's play, you could argue England have tipped the early balance in their favour, and with the runs on the scoreboard, that argument would have some merit. I'm falling squarely in the honours even category as Australia are the greatest test match playing team in the world. They have all 10 first innings wickets still in hand, and they've already dealt with England's first dig with the bat and restricted them to less than 400 runs on first innings. A brilliant day's Ashes cricket. Honours even. But before we return to the beginning of the day's play, we must go back to the future of the past 24 hours and my first 10+ mile canal walk of the summer, a film that unnerved me and the reason why we're all here in the first place. Last summer's canal walks were peppered with double-digit miles walked in a day, with my infamous hitchhiking aboard a canal boat at the Llangollen not included in the 16-mile round trip that I don't think my feet have forgiven me for yet. Much like now as I hobble around with all the agility of the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz in desperate need of an oil change. Stourton was beautiful and so was Bratch Locks, but I visited these places on the Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal many times before, so I knew what to expect. I just wasn't expecting, or match fit for, the miles in between and the canal walk I hadn't undertaken until yesterday, and today my calves and lower legs resemble two stiff pieces of willow, ready to crush cricket balls to all parts of any cricket ground you care to name. The film I allude to is entitled Beau is Afraid, directed by Ari Aster, and in the masterful hands of marquee star Joaquin Phoenix, there's an incredibly intriguing film wrapped around a nightmarish horror which leans on religion, a mother's love, death, regret, guilt, and is still an absurdist, surreal odyssey of the path of time and life that immediately invokes the twisted horror of Darren Aronofsky's Mother from 2017 or Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch-Drunk Love from 2002. I found it insufferable, nerve-shredding, and I missed every piece of supposed comedy in a film, as all I could think of writing in my trusty notebook was a subtitle for my review of the film, namely, A 3-Hour Panic Attack with Joaquin Phoenix. You think they'll put this brief and pithy review on the posters? Anyway, the Ashes is underway. The first day has ended with honours relatively even, and here are the day's 3 sessions of play. Act 1, Aussie's Edge morning session with a snorter. England 124 for 3 at lunch. 18 months ago, England opening batsman Rory Burns lost his leg stump to a Mitchell Starc Yorker at Brisbane with the very first ball of the Ashes, and yet more magical fairy dust was liberally sprinkled upon this grandest of sporting fixtures. Stories surrounding the first ball of an Ashes series are legion. Just ask Australian opening batsman Michael Slater or England fast bowler Steve Harmison. No, scrub that. Please don't ask Steve Harmison. He's probably still having nightmares of bowling to second slip in Brisbane in 2006. But today Zach Crawley, a batsman I have long trumpeted to be a huge success for England as an opening batsman, crunched Pat Cummins' first ball of the series fizzing through cover for a boundary 4, and a tone was seemingly set, as well as this eagerly awaited series was now well and truly underway. Crawley would begin and indeed end the opening session of the day, but with the bittersweet contrasting fortunes of smashing a boundary 4 from the morning's first ball to receiving a cricketing snorter from Scott Boland on the cusp of the lunch break that would signal both his downfall for a well-played 61 runs as well as the break for lunch, and rather than England resting on 124 for 2 and edging the opening session, his wicket, and England's third top order wicket to fall in the morning, shaded the session for Australia. Prior to gloving Boland's unplayable delivery into the safe hands of Alex Carey behind the stumps, the glove man from Loxton in Australia would claim 5 of the 8 English wickets to fall today, including 2 easy stumpings. Crawley had led England to a relatively healthy 124 runs at the lunch break, and after seeing his in-form opening partner Ben Duckett tamely edge a catch through to Carey with a score on 22, and Ollie Pope trapped LBW on the crease by the bowling of Nathan Lyon with a total of 92. Crawley's dismissal immediately before the session break in play was cruel on the 25-year-old from Bromley in Kent, and just tipped the early balance of power in favour of the visitors, but, perhaps crucially as the series develops, the young man has another Ashes half-century under his belt and healthy early runs in the scorebook. Act 2. Yorkshire Grit evens the afternoon score. England are 240 for 5 at tea. The hosts added a further 116 runs in the afternoon session for the loss of Harry Brook, unluckily for 32, and their captain Ben Stokes for a reckless 1. With Joe Root unbeaten at the lunch break, he remained 66 not out of the tea break after 50 plus run partnerships with both Harry Brook and Johnny Bairstow, all 3 Yorkshiremen to their very core. Whereas Bairstow would join his great childhood friend not out at the afternoon session break on 33 not out, 24-year-old Harry Brook showed no signs of Ashes nerves as he scored a typically aggressive run-a-ball 32 before falling to perhaps the most unluckiest of ways of losing your wicket. Fending off a delivery from Nathan Lyon that lifted off the wicket, every close-in Australian fielder shouted for a possible catch of a ball that had looped out of everyone's eye line before landing at Brook's feet and gently spinning back into his middle stump. Incredibly cruel on the young man, but he had to go. 8 balls later his captain Ben Stokes followed him, and their collective team were 176 for 5 and tottering on the brink of collapse. The steady hands and Yorkshire grit of Root 66 and Bairstow 33 guided England to a more respectable and arguable level game after 2 sessions of play at 240 for 5. Act 3. Root the Centurion, Warner and Khawaja hold firm. England 393 for 8 declared, Australia 14 for no wicket. When Joe Root walked to the wicket this morning, England were 92 for 2. When he left the wicket this evening, he was unbeaten on 118 not out, and the team he used to captain and often had to carry single-handedly on the back of his Hall of Fame batting prowess, declared their first innings on 393 for 8. Quite simply, the Yorkshireman had seen 6 wickets fall for just over 300 runs in his stay at the crease, and with time running out in the day's play, Ben Stokes declared the innings to have a 15-minute dart at the Australian opening batsman. One of the ever-pleasing aspects of Test match cricket, England simply couldn't lose and were playing with the house's money, whilst Australia had everything to lose, especially the prize wickets of David Warner, Usman Khawaja and perhaps Marnus Labuschagne. That they didn't evens the score on the day's play, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. Whilst Root compiled a completely risk-free and serene 118 not out, Moeen Ali, Stuart Broad and Ollie Robinson contributed a combined 51 runs to the team total, in addition to the third Yorkshireman of our trio today, Johnny Bairstow, who took his tea break not out total of 33 through to 78 before being stumped by Alex Carey off the bowling of Nathan Lyon, the off-spinner, ending the innings with figures of 4 wickets for 149 runs. Bairstow, fully justifying his selection ahead of the very unlucky Ben Foakes, accelerated through the batting gears in his 121-run partnership with Root, but where he perished for 78, Root caressed 7 boundary 4s and 2 reverse scoop boundary 6s on his way to an unbeaten century, his 30th in Test match cricket, before ending the innings unbeaten on 118 not out. With the runs on the scoreboard, England have perhaps just shaded the opening day's play, but it would be so minimal at this stage as to be easier to score at an even day or round. But with a featherbed and a batting paradise of a wicket, the actual score and state of the game could well be even come the end of play tomorrow too, but that's the magic of Test match cricket. If Stuart Broad or Jimmy Anderson get on a wicket-taking roll in the morning, England could find themselves ahead, albeit so early in the match, come late tomorrow afternoon. However, should David Warner, Steve Smith or Travis Head emulate Joe Root and crash a century in tomorrow's Birmingham sunshine, then Australia may well find themselves heading into day 3 with a minimal lead, but with wickets in hand. Regardless, Michael Atherton, Athers and Ricky Ponting, punter, opened on TV commentary here in England, followed by Nasser Hussain and Kevin Peterson, as well as the Australian duo of Captain Grumpy Ponting and fellow former captain Mark Tubby Taylor. I'm excitedly pleased to report that the 2023 Ashes is up and running, and we have the prospect of a humdinger of an opening session in the morning. Postscript: the Uno Ashes. Dad 4, Lad 6. After racing into both a 2-0 and 3-1 lead, I pegged back my son with 3 game wins on the bounce to lead 4-3, before he too won 3 games on the spin to end our first day of the Uno Ashes with a 6-4 lead. Suffice to say, he wasn't best pleased as I reeled off 3 consecutive victories, but he's the kid on form at this particular card game, and this minor distraction allows for his cricket-mad father to watch as much of this Ashes series as possible. Aggregate scores will continue throughout the summer, with our next tussle scheduled for day 3 on Sunday. And that was part 4 of The Spirit of Cricket. And talking of my son, and just as a quick end of episode ramble, I couldn't but admire the way he looked at me as I set up this mini silly little set of a recording studio. Blimey, recording studio. And I kept looking at him, and he was looking at me thinking, what on earth are you doing, Dad? And that's the way that I love him so. Thanks for watching. This has been an old man sitting in a chair, bidding you peace and solidarity. And thanks for watching.